I never thought I'd find myself sitting here, staring at my phone with a sinking feeling in my stomach, but that's exactly what happened. My name's James, by the way. I've been married to Amanda for about 5 years now, and honestly, I thought we had a pretty solid life together. She's a little bossy, always quick with a snarky comment or a eye roll, but she's beautiful, and I figured that was enough. We had our routines, our little comfort zone, and I thought she was committed, until about 2 months ago when things started to feel off. It started with little things. She'd go out with her friends more often, claiming she needed girl time, but her stories didn't add up. She'd come home late, smelling different, more confident somehow, like she'd been drinking or maybe even doing more than just chatting at happy hour. I'd ask, and she'd shrug it off, call me paranoid or insecure. "You're overthinking again," she'd snap. That was her favorite line, "you're overthinking," whenever she was caught in a lie or doing something she shouldn't. Then I started noticing her phone more. She'd hide it when I walked into the room, lock the screen, and clear her messages like she was hiding something. I tried to ignore it, thinking maybe I was just being paranoid or jealous. But inside, I was getting more suspicious. The gut instinct that something was wrong just wouldn't go away. I even started catching her in little lies, things that didn't quite add up. She'd tell me she was working late, but I'd see her car in some random parking lot after hours. Or she'd say she's at the gym, but her social media check-ins didn't match up. Then came the night I found the final piece of the puzzle. I was just sitting on the couch, scrolling through my email, half watching a game on TV when I noticed a message pop up on her phone. It was from someone named Sam. Nothing unusual, right? But the message had a kind of intimacy that made my stomach turn. It was about plans for the weekend, and it wasn't about some casual catch-up. It was flirty, suggestive, and it made my skin crawl. When I looked over her shoulder, she was typing furiously, her fingers moving fast in a way I'd never seen before. I waited until she went to the kitchen to grab a drink, then I quietly unlocked her phone and read the message thread. Turns out, she's been cheating on me with some guy she met at work. His name's Mike, and I don't even know how long it's been going on. There were photos, some very explicit, of her and Mike, and a lot of texts where she was clearly enjoying the affair, even calling him hot and the best I've ever had. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All those little signs, every late night, every excuse, everything, was just her hiding this secret. I didn't want to lose it right then, so I waited. When she finally came back in, I was trying to keep my voice steady. I told her I saw the messages, and I asked her outright, was she cheating? Her face went cold, that bitchy smirk she always gets when she's trying to lie her way out of something. She flicked her hair, rolled her eyes, and told me I was making a big deal out of nothing. "You're paranoid. You're just jealous because I work hard and deserve to have some fun. Mike's just a friend, James. You're overreacting." That's when I realized the woman I thought I knew was just a polished liar. She's good at hiding her true self, but not good enough this time. I saw the truth plain in her eyes. She didn't give a damn about our vows or the fact that she was breaking my heart. After that night, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and my mind kept circling back to the images I had seen. Her messages, the photos of her with Mike, the way she had lied with that angry, dismissive tone. It was like a punch to the stomach every time I thought about it. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I was so blind to what was happening right under my nose. Was I really that naive? Or was I just so in love that I refused to see the truth? The next day I confronted her again, hoping she'd finally come clean. I told her I knew she was cheating and that I deserved honesty. Her reaction was exactly what I expected. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and said I was crazy. "You're overreacting, James. You're just jealous because I'm better in bed than you ever were. Maybe you should try to keep up instead of snooping around like some paranoid freak." That's when I saw the real her, cruel, bitchy, unremorseful. She was trying to deflect, trying to make me feel like I was the problem. Honestly, it made me angrier. Not just because she was cheating, but because she was so dismissive, so callous. Like I meant nothing. I didn't want to just sit around and get smothered by this gut-wrenching betrayal. I decided I needed a plan. I didn't want to just blow up and make a scene right then. No, I wanted to catch her in the act, expose her, and then decide what to do. I started gathering evidence, screenshots of her messages, recording her calls when I could, even installing a spy app on her phone. I wanted her to see I wasn't some naive fool. I was watching, I was aware, and I was ready to fight for myself. I knew this wasn't just about her cheating. This was about her lying, her manipulation, her complete disregard for our marriage. Meanwhile, she kept up her act of nonsense, calling me insecure, accusing me of being paranoid and trying to gaslight me into thinking I was losing it. She'd flash that bitchy smirk whenever I caught her in a lie or when I pressed her about where she was. I could see the contempt in her eyes, like I was just some obstacle she had to put up with. The more she lied, the more determined I became. I decided I'd find a way to catch her red-handed. If she wanted to keep sneaking around, I'd make sure I had all the proof I needed. I started to notice her schedule shifting. She'd hide her phone even more, and her excuses for late nights became increasingly flimsy. I'd ask her simple questions, and she'd give me vague answers or just tell me I was suspicious. Every lie she told only confirmed what I already knew deep down. She thought she was so clever, so untouchable. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. One night I set up a little trap. I left my laptop open with a folder ready, screenshots, saved messages, everything I'd collected. I knew she'd try to hide her tracks, but I was prepared. I even texted her from a burner phone, pretending to be someone else just to see if she'd slip up or try to meet someone. That night I stayed up late, watching her, waiting for something to happen. And sure enough, she slipped off to meet her friend again, her phone buzzing with messages. When I peeked at her phone, I saw her typing in sign language, her own secret code with Mike, communicating in signs I hadn't even started learning yet. That's when I realized she had developed a whole new way to communicate, some kind of secret language, right in front of me. I've been so blind to her lies that I never thought she'd develop a secret code. But there it was, clear as day. Her fingers moving fast, signing things I couldn't understand but which I knew were intimate, maybe even sexual. I felt this cold rage boil up inside me. How dare she cheat, then hide it in signs like I was too stupid to catch on. That night was the turning point. I knew I had to do something drastic. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and sadness, like I was mourning the woman I thought I knew. But I also knew I could let her get away with it. Not anymore. I had to find a way to stop her, to make her realize she couldn't just lie and cheat without consequences. That's when I started planning my revenge, step by step, because I knew her lies wouldn't keep her safe forever. The more I watched her, the clearer it became that she was playing me, and she was doing it in a way I hadn't even suspected. That secret sign language, the one she developed with Mike, wasn't just casual gestures. It was a whole language, something she put effort into, a way for them to communicate in secret right in front of my eyes. I couldn't believe how deep this had gone. She was talking to him in her own little code, and I was sitting right there, completely oblivious. It made my stomach churn to realize I'd been so blind, so naive, that I didn't even see the signs. What made it worse is how she'd lie without blinking. I'd ask her simple questions, where she was, who she was with, and she'd swear she was telling the truth. But I knew better now. I saw her signing with her hands, quick and sneaky, like she was trying to hide the truth in plain sight. She'd slip into her little code, acting innocent when I caught her glancing at her phone or when she'd suddenly get a call and run to the bathroom. I started recording her at those moments, catching her in the act. I wanted proof, undeniable proof, because I knew she'd deny everything if I just confronted her directly. One night, I decided I'd push a little harder. I waited until she went out again, supposedly to meet her friends. I slipped my phone out and followed her from a distance, keeping an eye on her as she got into her car. She was heading to that same coffee shop where she'd met Mike before. When she got out and stepped inside, I parked nearby, watching her through the window. I could see her signing in some secret language with a guy sitting at a table. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but her gestures, fast, deliberate, and intimate, were enough. They weren't just talking about work or trivial stuff. She was sharing something personal, private, something secret. Watching her, I felt a wave of rage and helplessness wash over me. How could I have been so stupid? I saw the way she'd look around nervously, as if worried someone might catch her. It struck me how she'd go to these lengths to hide her affair, even inventing a secret language just so she could keep communicating without me knowing. That's when I realized I needed to escalate my plan. I had all this evidence, the photos, the messages, her secret sign language, and I knew I couldn't just sit on it forever. I had to be smart, careful, or I'd lose everything. I went home that night, heart pounding, and started putting everything together. I compiled all the screenshots, the recordings, the times she'd slipped up or lied. I wanted to confront her with everything, but I knew that wouldn't be enough. If I was going to expose her and make her see that I wasn't some fool she could walk all over, I had to do it in a way that hit her hard. I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal, to see how deeply she had hurt me. So, I devised a plan. I'd leave her a trail, something she couldn't deny or spin her way out of. I'd send her an anonymous message, a collection of all the evidence I'd gathered with a simple note. I know what you've been doing. You can't hide from the truth. I knew she'd panic. That's what I wanted. I wanted her to realize I was onto her, that I wasn't just some gullible husband anymore. I was watching her every move, and I was prepared to take everything away if she didn't face the reality of what she'd done. That night while she slept, I left the message on her phone and scattered some printed screenshots around the house, photos of her in the act, her secret sign language, the texts I'd uncovered. I didn't want her to deny it anymore. I wanted her to see she couldn't escape the consequences of her actions. I felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and dread, knowing that I was about to shake her world to the core. The question was, would she finally come clean, or would she keep hiding behind her lies? Either way, I knew my next move had to be decisive. I wasn't going to let her keep playing me for a fool. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. Her phone was ringing nonstop, messages flooding in, some anonymous, some from her friends, some from her work contacts. I could hear her running around, acting frantic, her voice rising in anger. She was trying to delete everything, I could tell. She kept grabbing her phone, swiping furiously, trying to get rid of the evidence I'd left. But I wasn't about to let her erase it all. I'd made sure everything was in plain sight, screenshots on the table, printed copies in a neat pile, and a recorded message I left on her voicemail just in case. She finally stormed into the living room, face flushed with fury and guilt. Her eyes darted around, searching for an escape route. When she saw all the evidence laid out, her bitchy mask cracked just a little. "What the hell is this, James? Are you spying on me now? You're crazy," she snapped, trying to dismiss everything. But her voice trembled, betraying her. She knew deep down she was caught and all her lies had crumbled. I looked straight at her and said, "Amanda, I knew something was off for a while, but I didn't want to believe it, seeing those messages. Those signs, you just went too far. You thought you could hide your affair, your secret language, and still pretend everything was fine. Well, it's over. I've got all the proof I need. You've been cheating on me with Mike, communicating with him in sign language right in front of me. How stupid do you think I am?" Her face twisted, a mixture of anger and contempt. "You're overreacting, James. You're paranoid. Maybe you're the one who's got issues. You think I'd cheat? Please. You're just insecure, always accusing me of stuff that's not even there." She spat back, her voice full of venom. I could see her trying to spin the story, trying to make me feel guilty or crazy, but I wasn't buying it. I was too angry, too betrayed to be manipulated anymore. The confrontation escalated quickly. She started yelling, accusing me of invading her privacy, of being controlling. She called me possessive, jealous, a man who doesn't understand how to trust. Meanwhile, I sat there processing it all, her lies, her deceit, her complete disregard for what we once had. I felt a cold emptiness settle in my chest. How had it come to this? How had the woman I loved turned into someone so selfish, so manipulative? I told her I wasn't going to stay silent anymore, that I was done with her lies, her games. I told her I was planning to leave, that she'd broken my trust beyond repair. She scoffed at that, trying to act like she was the victim. "You're just throwing a tantrum because I won't give you what you want," she said, her voice dripping with mockery. But I knew better. I knew she was just scared because her whole world was collapsing around her. I didn't want to hurt her, but I knew what she deserved. She'd betrayed me in the worst way possible, and I wasn't going to be her punching bag anymore. I told her I was going to take some time to figure out what I really wanted, but I made it clear that our marriage was over if she didn't come clean or show remorse. I needed to protect myself, to regain some sense of control after all the chaos she'd caused. Her reaction: she stormed out of the house, cursing, slamming doors, calling me all kinds of names. I heard her crying in the car as she drove off, and honestly I felt a pang of guilt, maybe for a second. But then I remembered the lies, the secret signs, the betrayal. I reminded myself that I deserved better, that I shouldn't have to live in a constant state of suspicion and heartbreak. I realized that the big betrayal wasn't just her cheating. She was lying about everything, hiding her true self behind a mask of bitchy indifference. That day was a turning point. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I also knew I couldn't stay in a relationship built on lies anymore. I'd been blind for too long. Now I was finally seeing the truth. And honestly, it felt like the start of something new, something I'd never experienced before, reclaiming my life after betrayal. After she left, I sat alone in the silence of the house, trying to breathe through the storm inside me. My mind kept circling back to everything: her lies, her secret language, her betrayal. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut 100 times over. But beneath all that anger and sadness, I knew I had to make a decision. Staying in this marriage would fix anything. It would only drag me further into the mess she created. Over the next few days, I kept reviewing everything I'd gathered. The screenshots, the recordings, her secret sign language, every piece of evidence pointing to her deep deception. I knew I couldn't just confront her again and hope she'd change. She'd lied so many times already. But I also didn't want to just walk away without making her understand how badly she'd hurt me. I needed a way to make her see the damage was irreversible, to make her feel the consequences of her actions. I started planning my next move. I knew I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal, without just losing her. I wanted her to understand that her selfishness and lies weren't just a betrayal of our vows. They were a betrayal of everything I thought we had. I was torn between wanting to expose her to her friends, her family, and just ending it quietly. But I realized that her ego was so big, she needed to be humiliated a little, show her she couldn't keep this secret forever. So I reached out. Not directly, at least not yet. I sent her an anonymous message, just a simple note with all the proof I'd collected. I wanted her to see herself through the truth. I told her I knew everything about the messages, the secret language, her meetings with Mike, and that she'd better come clean before I did it for her. I included some of the screenshots, the recordings, and a warning. You can't hide from the truth forever. I will expose you if you keep lying. I was hoping that would make her panic, make her realize she'd crossed a line she couldn't come back from. And panic she did. The next day, her phone blew up with calls, texts, and even messages from her friends asking what was going on. I saw her trying to cover her tracks, deleting messages, changing her passwords, but I'd already done that part. I kept my distance, watching her from afar. Her bitchy attitude turned even more vicious. She started blaming everyone else for her problems, trying to convince herself she was the victim. She told her friends I was crazy, paranoid, that I'd gone too far, and I could tell she was trying to spin the story to her advantage. But the truth was out there, and she knew it. That realization, her knowing she was exposed, brought a strange sense of relief. For so long, I'd felt like I was fighting a losing battle, trying to hold on to what we had. But now, I was finally on the offensive. I'd taken control of the situation, and I knew I'd made her realize that she couldn't keep hiding behind her lies. I could see her cracking under the pressure, her confident facade slipping. She'd always been bitchy, yes, but now she was angry, desperate, and trying to deny everything. That's when I decided I'd give her one last chance to come clean, because I knew the moment she admitted everything, I'd finally be able to move on, one way or another. In the end, I realized this whole ordeal had taught me more about myself than about her. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought, that I deserve honesty, and that I don't need to accept someone's betrayal just because I love them. Love isn't enough when it's built on lies. I also learned that some people will go to extraordinary lengths to hide their true nature. She thought she could cheat and lie her way out of it. But she underestimated how far I was willing to go to uncover the truth. And honestly, for the first time in a long while, I felt a little bit free from the deception, free from her bitchy attitude, free from the constant doubt. It's just the beginning of healing, I suppose, but it's a start. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotion. I didn't contact her directly anymore. I let the evidence speak for itself. I knew that her ego was fragile and that her pride was taking a hit with every message she received, every call she dodged. Her once bitchy attitude had turned into outright panic. I could see her trying to maintain her composure, but behind that facade, she was crumbling. I felt no satisfaction from her downfall, only a quiet sense of closure. I finally understood that I'd been living in a haze of denial, convincing myself that she was just busy or stressed, when in reality she was cheating on me in the worst way possible. One day, she finally confronted me, not with tears or apologies, but with a sneer and a dismissive attitude. She said she was done, that she never loved me and that I was just too insecure to handle her independence. That was her final act of defiance, trying to spin her betrayal as some kind of noble act, like I was the villain for catching her. But I saw through her lies now. The truth was she didn't care about us. She only cared about herself and her secret life with Mike. She thought she was smarter than me, that she could manipulate her way out of everything. But I'd seen the real her, and I'd finally accepted that there was no fixing this. It hurt like hell, but I also felt a strange sense of liberation. I was finally free from her bitchy, manipulative grip. I packed up her things quietly without drama. I knew I didn't want that toxicity in my life anymore. As I watched her walk out the door for the last time, I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. I realized that I deserved honesty, respect, and someone who would actually love me. And now I knew I had the strength to walk away from someone who had betrayed all those things. Looking back, I see how blind I was for so long. I ignored all the signs, convinced myself that everything was fine because I didn't want to face the truth. But the truth is always there, hidden in signs, in gestures, in the lies people tell themselves to justify their actions. My experience has taught me to trust my instincts, to be more cautious about who I let into my life, and most importantly, to never settle for someone who doesn't value me enough to be truthful. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this: never ignore the warning signs. Trust yourself. Love isn't enough if it's built on lies and betrayal. It's better to be alone than with someone who doesn't respect you enough to keep it real. I've learned that even the bitchiest, most manipulative people can't hide who they truly are forever. And in the end, the truth always comes out. It might hurt in the short term, but in the long run, it sets you free. So here I am, finally standing on my own, ready to rebuild what's left of my life. And I'm not looking back.